Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. A young martial arts master loses all his fighting skills and must indulge in meditation practice to figure out how to get his body back. Today we will recap the story of the 2010 movie, Ong Bak 3. After being forced to eliminate his adoptive father, a young martial arts fighter is captured by a tyrannical emperor and sentenced to death. Brutally, the emperor's soldiers pull the boy through the chains that are attached to his wrists and immobilize him while other men attack him with wooden sticks. Despite the immense suffering, Tien tries to resist the attacks, but just as he is about to fall to the ground, his executioners lift him up again and the emperor states that he will join his father in hell. Upon hearing these words, Tien unleashes all his fury and gathers the rest of his strength to take down the guards, using the chains to strike them. Even with his movements restricted, the young man attacks his enemies with mastery and demonstrates great skill in battle. Alone and wounded, he eliminates a group of strong, healthy men with great agility. However, new soldiers arrive on the scene and Tien is eventually defeated. A few kilometers away from there is a small village full of sick people. They all show the same symptoms of constant despair, and the villagers theorize that this illness stems from a curse. In an attempt to rid the residents of that terrible plague, Master Bua goes to meditate in a cave next to statues of Buddha. Meanwhile, Tien continues to suffer the most terrible attacks, which cause damage to every bone in his body. Faced with such brutality, all his will to live deserts him and he gives up the fight, accepting the bleak future that awaits him. Aware that his death is approaching, the boy remembers all the important moments of his life and remembers Pim, his best childhood friend. Before leaving the village, the boy presented her with a bracelet and promised that one day they would see each other again. During the meditation, Master Bua has a vision of a sorcerer practicing black magic, whose body is covered with tattoos of ancient symbols and inscriptions. The evil spirit then tries to invade his body, but Master Bua uses meditation as a resource to expel it. He then gets rid of all his hair and goes to the hill to say his prayers. Sitting on his throne, Emperor Rajasena hears voices prophesying that he will meet a terrible fate, and this begins to torment him. Rajasena remembers the day of the death of the former emperor, whom he poisoned to usurp his throne. Before he dies, the man curses his traitor, and as he remembers this dark episode from his past, Rajasena realizes that there is blood running down his head. Suddenly, his entire tent begins to crumble and the elephant statues that are carved next to the throne fight among themselves. When he looks around, the tyrant realizes that all his subjects are dead, but luckily it was all just a bad dream. When he gets up, he hears a real war going on outside his palace and discovers that a group of warriors has invaded his village to try to rescue Tien. As the adopted son of the late leader of that gang, the boy became the new ruler, so the men decided to risk their lives to save him. One of them tries to free Tien from the chains, but is soon attacked by the sorcerer, who enters the battle and uses his abilities from black magic to eliminate all the members of that small group. Impressed by the man's fighting skills, Rajasena invites him to join his army and promises that, in return, he will give him everything he desires. However, the sorcerer refuses the offer and claims that the nightmares that disturb the emperor are the result of a curse that will haunt him until the end of his days. According to him, the only way to get rid of this curse is to eliminate Tien, and Rajasena says he will cut off the boy's head the next day. On the morning preceding the elimination of the warrior, Pim and the other residents of her village spot the decree that Tien will be eliminated at noon, and the young woman recognizes him as her childhood friend. Seconds before the boy loses his head, a messenger arrives with a decree from the king, which orders that the condemned man be taken to another village. Faced with the imperial decree, Rajasena has no choice but to obey it, even against his will. During a conversation with his advisors, the emperor has a hallucination, in which men gather to curse him. Furious, Rajasena draws a sword and slashes the throat of one of them. Soon after, he realizes that there are dozens of crows flying over his palace. After being rescued, Tien is taken back to his old village, the one he left when he was still a teenager, and Pim can barely recognize him in that state. Just then, the village is attacked by ninjas who have been sent by the emperor to eliminate the boy. The guards try to stop the invaders, but are killed by the skilled warriors. When one of the ninjas walks toward Tien, he is knocked down by a strong blow, but he also manages to get rid of the two warriors who team up to attack him. During the battle, Pim decides to stay by her old friend's side and believes it is her end when all the warriors in her village are defeated. However, just as the ninja believes he will finish his mission, his neck begins to bleed, as it was cut at the end of his last fight. That same day, Master Bua gathers the village healers to take care of Tien. Pim asks if there is any chance that her friend will survive, and the monk says that his life is very fragile, so the boy has little chance of living. In the hope of restoring him, Bua asks everyone to come together to build a symbol that will allow Tien's soul to return to his body. In this way, the residents donate their most precious objects, and Pim gives away the bracelet that she got from her friend when they were younger. After melting the metals, they build a statue of Buddha, and days later they remove the cloths that wrapped Tien's body as the boy begins to recover. A few weeks have passed since the symbol was built and the boy's soul returns to his body, leaving everyone in the village happy and relieved. That night, Pim tries to help him get up, but Tien cannot get control of his arms and legs, so he ends up falling to the ground. Still, the young woman remains willing to provide help, but he orders her to leave, because he doesn't want Pim to see him like that. While everyone is asleep, the boy crawls to the edge of a cliff and plans to take his own life. He cannot accept his condition and would rather die than live like that. A crazy man who resides in the village tries to convince Tien not to jump, saying that it must be very scary down there. However, the boy ignores him and decides to continue with his plan, until Master Bua appears and reveals that he has a mission to fulfill. The monk says that Tien should go to the temple to meditate, for the spirits will enlighten him. After several days of isolation and total solitude, the bones in his body begin to be restored, and he is finally able to get back on his feet. After suffering intense pain, Tien's body recovers and he goes back to training his Muay Thai. One day, he receives a visit from his former friend who, through dance, helps him regain full control of his body. Patiently, Pim accompanies the boy through the whole process and is extremely happy to see his progress. Even Men is infected by the sight of the couple and begins to dance along with them. Now that he has regained control of his body and mind, Tien thanks Master Bua immensely and is advised to continue training to eliminate more and more of his spirit's weaknesses. And so he does. For long months, Tien dedicates himself to the art of meditation, acquiring total control over his being. Allied to this, the young man intensifies his Muay Thai training, for he knows that physical strength will be necessary to fulfill his mission. During all this time, Rajasena has continued to be tormented by nightmares and goes after Tien with the aim of eliminating him, because he believes that this will rid him of the curse. On the way, a frightening voice invades his mind and he pursues it until he reaches a cave filled with human skeletons. It is not long before the man discovers that in that dark place dwells the sorcerer who refused his invitation to join his army. The emperor's mind is invaded by black magic and leaves him completely disturbed. In an attempt to get rid of the pain, Rajasena takes a sword that was stuck in the ground and attacks the sorcerer. However, even with the gun on his chest, the monster remains standing and states that very soon the emperor's power will be his. After being thrown out, Rajasena orders his men to attack the creature, but the sorcerer uses his incredible agility to defeat them. Among various other abilities, the black magic grants him superhuman strength and fighting ability, which the Demented One uses to eliminate all who stand in his way. The sorcerer manages to steal the soldiers' weapons and use them against them. With his powerful and accurate kicks, the creature ends the battle. After blocking all attacks and getting rid of his enemies, only the emperor is left to challenge him. Aware that his life is hanging by a thread, Rajasena decides to act and tries to hit his opponent with an arrow. However, the sorcerer manages to dodge the attack and sets off toward the emperor with the aim of tearing his head off. Even with his head separated from his body, Rajasena still manages to utter his last words and curses the sorcerer just as his former emperor did to him. As promised, after eliminating Rajasena and his men, the sorcerer takes his place as emperor and orders everyone in the city to bow down before him. Days later, Tien is training when Men says that some men have arrived in the village to visit him. What the madman didn't realize was that those were guards sent by the new emperor to eliminate the boy. Seeing him fighting those guys, Men believes that it is all just a joke and begins to imitate his steps. He accidentally lands a few blows on the squad leader standing right next to him, and when he realizes that this guy is not in the right frame of mind, the man decides to take all his anger out on Tien. Then the soldier rushes toward him with a sword, but the young man throws him away and grabs a vine to help him during the fight. Quickly, Tien manages to get rid of his opponents and, with Mhen's help, uses the vine to defeat the leader of the guards. At the end of the fight, the boy runs back to the village, for he is afraid that his people are also being attacked. When he arrives at the village, his suspicions are confirmed and he finds the place completely destroyed, with dozens of bodies scattered on the ground. Tien walks around looking for Pim and realizes that she has been forcibly taken along with several other villagers. Suddenly, one of the soldiers approaches him from behind in an attempt to surprise him, but Tien quickly attacks him and new enemies appear aiming to eliminate him. For the first time in several months, the young man can test his skills in battle and finds that he is even more powerful than before. At this point, Tien understands his true mission and realizes that the reason he trained for so long was so that he would be prepared to save his people when that day came. When he returns to the temple, the warrior removes his beard and receives a staff from Master Bua, who says that he is now ready to fulfill his destiny. In the neighboring village, the witch has shown himself to be an even more ruthless emperor than the previous one. Under their reign, warriors have raided several villages and wiped out dozens of families. Not even the elephants, which are the most sacred symbol to the Thai people, are being treated with mercy. Frightened by all that evil, Pim tries to hide and go unnoticed, hoping to be spared such brutality. The young woman and the other prisoners are shocked to see an elephant being slaughtered before their eyes because, to them, those animals are like members of their family. The people were already completely losing their hopes when Tien appears and announces that he is there to free them. He promises that he will destroy the new emperor, but the sorcerer mocks his claim and says that will be the young warrior's funeral. When it raises its arms toward the heavens, the creature can cause an eclipse by moving the moon so that it covers the sun's light. Upon witnessing this phenomenon, everyone is terrified and Pim begins to shout for Tien to run away, for her greatest fear is that the boy will be eliminated in battle. Despite knowing her friend's incredible abilities, the young woman believes that he is not capable of defeating that monster. When he realizes the connection between Tien and Pim, the sorcerer cuts the young woman's neck, who ends up dying from loss of blood. Furious at such injustice, the warrior attacks the emperor's guards in order to clear the way for him and get his revenge. Tien then uses a combination of punches and kicks to defeat his enemies and destroys their weapons with only the strength of his legs. After landing a sequence of elbows to the head of one of his opponents, he marches under the sand and runs over all those who try to stop him. In order to disperse Tien's attention, the guards release the elephants, who, frightened, walk quickly through the camp where the prisoners are, destroying absolutely everything on the way. Realizing that the elephants are being used to destroy his people, Tien becomes even angrier and attacks the guards violently. Despite taking a few blows and being pierced by spears, the boy refuses to abandon his mission and enlists the help of the elephants to help him in this battle. The young man jumps on the back of these animals in order to overthrow the men who control them, and uses everything he learned during his training period to save his people. At one point in the fight, Tien manages to steal the spear from one of his opponents and uses the weapon to pierce them. He even uses the sand beneath his feet as a distraction to attack his enemies without them having a chance to fight back. The warrior is throwing punches and elbows at one of those guys when he sees an army of soldiers running towards him. At this point, he enlists the help of an elephant to throw a monument in the direction of his enemies and massacre them. Fearful that Tien will be able to defeat his guards, the sorcerer decides to attack him and throws a spear that strikes right through his heart. Seeing his opponent fall to his knees, the sorcerer boasts about his power, but soon realizes that none of it was real. It was all an illusion caused by Tien. The boy had been meditating all this time, and in this way was able to predict exactly what would happen if he attacked the enemy. Therefore, he wisely decided not to move, and in this way managed to avoid even Pim's death. At this time, the sorcerer who claimed to be able to control the heavens is struck by lightning, and immediately the sun shines again, causing his guards to come out of the enchantment they were under. When the sunlight directly hits his body, the emperor is abandoned by the dark magic that gave him all that power. The tattoos that were distributed all over his body begin to disappear and the man is completely weakened. Even so, he does not accept his defeat and goes after Tien with what little skill he has left. However, the boy calmly dodges his blows and uses his own body as a shield to block any attack. During the fight, Tien throws his enemy away and, after spinning in the air, the demented man falls into the water. Feeling overwhelmed, he stands up even more furious and tries a new attack. However, he can't even touch the warrior who, after spinning him once more, knocks him back into the water. On his third attempt, the emperor is thrown out of the lake, and the battle continues. This time he uses the ashes inside a vase to blind his opponent, and thus manages to land 2 kicks on him. Confident that he will win this duel, the former sorcerer throws a spear at Tien, but this time the boy manages to stop him with his hands before the sharp object hits his neck. When he realizes that his blow did not have the expected effect, the emperor makes another attempt, but Tien manages to lift him with only one hand, and the demented man ends up falling on top of the tusk of one of the elephants he has captured. With his abdomen pierced, the emperor is eliminated forever and Tien is able to complete his mission to free his people. In this way, he is able to return home with the villagers who survived, and together they begin a routine of prayers and for the opportunity for a fresh start. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.